Mixed reality, including augmented reality, virtual reality, are actually turning into practical tools because of the hardware and software that's now available. So, Vishal, could you tell us a bit about Lenovo's VRX platform?
Hey, thank you so much for having me over. I'm a big fan of what you do and what your publication does. So thank you very much. Lenovo is now on its third generation of technology for XR devices, what we call AR, VR, and now mixed reality devices. We started this journey with augmented reality, pass-through glasses. Then we launched a 3DOF VR headset, and now we're into our third generation of headsets with the VRX ThinkReality platform, which is a complete platform. It's something that it's not only about the hardware for the enterprise customers to scale. We realized very quickly in the journey, because of our enterprise background that Lenovo has with its ThinkPad line of products, that to scale in the enterprise, you not only need the hardware, but you also need a set of solutions, a very reliable MDM partners to scale, and then a set of services around that as well. And then what the ThinkReality platform strives to do is bring all those components together to help our enterprises find a one-stop shop for XR solutions for their company.
Now, you mentioned this is third generation. What are some of the performance characteristics, resolution, things like that of the current version, and why has that made a difference over time?
Yeah, we've seen the technology evolve, rapidly over the last 12 to 18 months. And when we designed the ThinkReality VRX, we wanted to stay true to our smarter inside brand that Lenovo is very proud of, right? So some of the things that we were very early to bring into the market were things like very thin pancake lenses, which make the depth of the device a lot more compact. We also worked with Qualcomm on their cutting edge Snapdragon processors, which helped us get to very high resolution displays that are cutting edge in the market as well. The other thing that we always try to do is, we build our devices for the enterprise from the bottom up. We're not like other social media companies or gaming companies that design their devices for consumers and, oh, by the way, use this, throw it over the wall to enterprises as well. What we did was work on very comfortable faceplates that fit over your glasses so that multiple people in the organization can use them. We have wipeable faceplates so that in the enterprise environment or education environment or a high school environment, you want to be able to reuse these and wipe them. So we put that in place. We did a very good job with the balancing of the device. So if someone needs to wear this for a half hour, 1 hour, a couple of hours, it doesn't like really bear down on your nose. So all those industrial design elements for the enterprise were really thought of from the bottom up for the enterprise. So that was some of the key things that we did. The other big investment we made was on something known as the Qualcomm Snapdragon Spaces, which is an SDK. That's an open source SDK that people can use. So that way you're not really stuck into one silo, into one walled garden kind of environment. So, we are strong believers in OpenXR and Open Android. And because of that investment, a lot of our ISVs and software developers were able to port their software over in a matter of weeks as opposed to a matter of months. So those are the investments we made to make sure that it's a complete enterprise platform and we are delivering some of the cutting edge features.
Can you talk now about some of the software? Because that's one of the areas where a lot of developers are going to be new. This is completely new environment, 3D that you're adding a lot to. What are you making it, or what are you adding that make it easier to address this?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we've added is our OpenXR Snapdragon Spaces SDK on top of our software, right? So what that allows you to do is leverage gaming engines like Unreal or Unity and some of the other major gaming engines, so that what you've already developed in that platform in your other environment can be easily transported over. The other thing that we have done is now with some of the generative AI technologies that are coming around, we are seeing a lot of advancement in how digital twins can now be created from something as simple as a text to an image or a text to a 3D world. So we're seeing developers now able to democratize content, now able to do things in a matter of weeks that used to take them months, and in a much cheaper environment as well, right? So we're able to provide some of those hooks and some of those APIs that will really help our developers scale their business. And at the end of the day, when you talk about how can we scale XR, these solutions, as you rightly pointed out, and the services are going to be the key factor that take the hardware to the next level.
What are some of the example applications that are being used on this platform that might differ, say, from the games that people oftentimes think of when they think of VR?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the biggest elements of what, just to take a step back, right? I mean, the industries, the CIOs, the learning and development managers have realized that an immersive 3D environment for training or collaboration is a lot more effective than a traditional 2D format, right? So that's been a realization in the industry, and there's a lot of acceptance, a lot of rush to move to this spatial computing environment to train your employees. So the number one use case we're seeing with VR and the VRX is around 3D training, learning and development. So that's our number one horizontal use case, which applies to just about every industry, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's high school education, whether it's pharma. It's being used for employee onboarding, training, and really accelerating the time that you can bring someone who's a new employee into the labor force. So that's the number one use case. The other one is around how we can now use digital twins, complex digital twins, high resolution digital twins in a collaborative environment. So right now, you and I are staring at 2D monitors, like rectangular monitors, but we can now quickly switch to a 3D environment where you and I can both be looking at the same 3D engine or a heart valve or a particular problem, out in the middle of the ocean with an oil rig, and walk around it, fix it, design, and collaborate as well. So that's a huge area of where we're seeing a lot of things around the architectural engineering design that this is being used for. And the third is going to be around how we interact with each other going forward, right? Being able to now convert your 2D mosaic into a 3D mosaic, being able to have these meetings in a lot more photorealistic 3D environment as well. So and being able to experience a marketing campaign, or being able to experience a retail store, or being able to experience a new car model in a 3D environment. So what happens in terms of how we experience this in marketing, retail, and one-to-one interaction is going to be a big third element of the use cases of the VR headset.
So to wrap up, could you give us what you think is going to be the direction, what's going to be happening in 2024 in this space?
Yeah, I think 2024, you're going to see a lot more improvements in the overall technology in general. So, the hardware is obviously going to get better. You're going to get better chipsets that are a lot more, a lot more power efficient and can drive better optics. So you're going to see, see the optics get a lot better in 2024. But what excites me most, and what Lenovo is always focused on, is the complete solution. We are now seeing our ISVs and solution providers create just amazing 3D worlds, creating just amazing immersive training applications, which really help our customers scale and get huge ROI from their investments. Like a 400% improvement in retention, like a 60% decline in error rates. So to me, that solution ecosystem is going to mature a lot faster, and it's only going to get amplified by generative AI and some of the tools it brings in. Generative AI has just celebrated its first anniversary, and we're already, I can't imagine what the second year would look like, right? And the promise that it brings. So to me, those two things are going to be quite incredible in terms of the advancement you're going to see in the space.
Great. Well, thanks for filling us in on Lenovo's 3D technology.